Om Sai Ram. We welcome you back for this final part of your third chapter from your Sociology PU2 book, Inclusive Strategies. We have already finished the entire chapter. In this chapter, we are going to take up some question answers that are important from the examination point of view also, but more than that, they will give you a good conceptual clarity, and it will help you to revisit the entire chapter again. If something you have missed or something you have failed to understand, this will help you. So, try to understand these answers that we give you, but please remember one thing, these answers are only indicative. So, they will give you an indication how to go about the question and answer, but you have to follow the entire course of answers from your textbook. There are some other questions also given at the end of your chapter, that also you should go through. So, let us begin with the question answers. First is, mention any 10 constitutional safeguards for the upliftment of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So, here you have to mention any 10 articles that are given in the first part of your chapter. So, there are total 15 given, you have to take up any 10. So, for example, article 15 which talks about no discrimination on the basis of caste, race, sex, religion, etc. Article 16 which talks about equality of opportunities for all citizens for employment and appointments, like that. So, select 10 which are meant towards creating equality or upliftment of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Question 2, discuss the important provision of the Untouchability Offence Act of 1955. So, here you have to mention what are the offence, if somebody creates this offence of still practicing untouchability, there are certain penalties which are prescribed in the constitution. So, what are those penalties? For example, preventing a person from entering a public worship place or taking water from well, tank, all those things are liable for penalties. Imposing any disability or denying access to public places, hospital, educational institutions, etc., or enforcing some kind of occupation or trade or profession to a particular caste. So, all these will be liable for some kind of penalties as are described in our constitution. So, this is again go through this well. Third, explain the developmental measures taken for the upliftment of scheduled caste. This has come in 2019. So, developmental measures for upliftment of scheduled caste, if it is a 10-mark question, it will be a detailed answer. So, here you have to answer all those points which are there. Appointment of National Commission for SC. So, describe a bit about that. Then educational opportunities. So, for example, books, stationery, scholarships, uniforms are given to the children. Then expansion of employment opportunities and reservations. So, you can mention 15% and 7.5% reservation for SC and ST. Then 5-year plan for upliftment of SC and ST. Then briefly mention what are those 3-step parts of this plans, 5-year plans. For example, SPC, SPCA, SCDC, little you have to describe. Next is discuss the role of Gandhiji and B.R. Ambedkar in eradication of untouchability. You will get the detail of it again in your book. So, you have to just mention what were the roles, how Gandhiji through his own model, how he acted towards showing that how we should not practice untouchability by cleaning their toilets, the untouchables, Harijans toilets, and by making them aware of their rights, of their duties, and by allowing them to come or enabling them, helping them to join the places of public worship and all. And B.R. Ambedkar, he was the key figure, rather the president of the committee that stated all the laws and articles which are there in the constitution book. So, he was instrumental in bringing about the equality amongst the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes through the way of articles in the constitution. Now, explain the role of non-government organizations in the upliftment of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. Here you are going to mention the names which are given. Not much details are given about any of these other than Sulabh International. Rest of non-government organizations, only names are mentioned. So, you can also mention some names here. Now, next question is, analyze the role of Sulabh International in rehabilitation of scavengers and sanitation. And you can also get a question, write a note on Bindeshwar Pathak. So, when you analyze the role of Sulabh International in rehabilitation of scavengers, you can just give a brief introduction of the problem. What was the problem? These scavengers, they were manually cleaning the toilets, and the plight of their life, there were the kind of disabilities these people were facing, and they were basically from scheduled caste. So, how did this person, Bindeshwar Pathak, came into their rescue, who stayed with them, learnt about their problems, and created an organization like this, which looked after the needs of these people, as well as found an alternative for cleaning of the toilets and creating a new era of sanitation. So, here you can mention what little bit about how were the toilets made. They were the generators of the fuel, and the leftover was used as manure. So, it was a recycling project for them, which was a very big invention on their part. So, the next question is, explain the welfare programs taken in India for the upliftment of scheduled tribes. So, here you can discuss the welfare programs which were under a few headings. Economic programs. So, there under economic programs there was 20-point programs, there was LAMPS and TRIFED. So, just explain a bit about them. Then the second one was educational programs. So, briefly explain what are those educational programs. So, how they are given stipend, how they are given scholarships in order for them to join these kind of educational institutions, so that the literacy rate takes off from there. Then you have research programs, basically to study tribals' problems related to their life, particular problems related to their life. There are various research centers that have opened, which mainly focus on tribal life only, so that they can help with the policies or programs. Then you have health and housing facility, which was again extended towards tribal people. So, these were the areas they were really suffering from no facility for health. So, now we have providing some mobile hospitals or visitations of midwives and sometimes doctors. So, all those things you have to mention in this. Let us go on to question number 8, which says discuss the objectives of towards the equality report of 1974. So, you have to mention what kind of report is this. This was a report based on National Commission of Women, which was set up in 1973, and they came with the report in 1974. And here you have to discuss the importance of this report and the objectives of these reports. Depending on how many marks, if it is 5 marks, just briefly explain. If it is 10 marks, then you have to give the details of each point, of the objectives and of the importance. Write a short note on self-help groups. Again, you have to decide and describe what is the purpose of creating these self-help groups, who creates them, who are the people, and what is the purpose of these self-help groups. So, who finances them. So, these basic points will come where you will discuss that this is a group created by people of homogeneous background. Generally, these people are poor people who cannot access to banking facilities. So, they look for help coming from various other sources. If not commercial banks, then there are some private lenders also, or they can create some pool in amount for themselves also, and they can use this particular amount at the time of need for their members, and they can use this amount for investing in some business activities also. So, get the details from your book. These are the basic ideas on which you will be writing the answer. Then next question is, explain the major features of microfinance. So, what are the major features? There are 5 features mentioned in your book. So, write about loan without security. That is this is one advantage of these kind of microfinance, that you get the loan without having to deposit any kind of security, because this is within a group, and which is a homogeneous group. It is like an informal group who will work for each other at the time of need. Then second feature was loans to people who live at the below poverty line. So, they are very, very poor people, and how the government of India decides poverty line, actually state to state it differs, but generally it comes out to be rupees 150 per day. If they are earning less than that, they come under below poverty line. So, they can be helped through these systems, these types of microfinance systems, because they cannot have access to commercial banks. They do not have those kind of investments or money to open their own accounts in the banks. So, these financial groups, microfinancial groups, can come for their rescue to open their account or to give the money, that pool in money at the time of need. Hope you have understood this point. Then next is explain the types of microfinance. So, there are 3 types basically. So, you have to mention them. There is informal financial service providers, which we said they can be private people, they can be money lenders, pawnbrokers who take something as security to provide you the loan, saving collectors, chit funds and input supply shops, and certain agencies are given. You have to, they are informal financial service providers. Then you have member owned organizations. So, these are the members from their self-help groups, credit unions, and a variety of hybrid organizations. So, all that you have to mention. So, they provide financial service to the members, and they are generally small and local. So, you have to mention briefly all these points. Now, let us go to the next question, which is about Shakthi. Okay, in the last one, the third type was formal financial institutions, that you have to mention, which is the commercial banks, and what is the limitations with the commercial banks. It was like they are commercial in their approach. So, that service motive is not so much there. So, that is one big problem, and their operational costs are very high. So, they generally cannot cater to the people of this strata of economic background, the poor people. So, generally commercial banks do not come as an answer, but sometimes they can be utilized, their services can be utilized if they relax their principles and conditions a bit. Yes, so let us go back to question number 12. What is Stree Shakthi? Explain the objectives of Stree Shakthi. So, again you have to mention that it was a program that was launched in Karnataka during 2001, and what was the objective behind that? To strengthen the process of economic development of rural women and to create a conducive environment for social change. So, basically to make them self-reliant and help them gain some kind of economic activity to become self-sufficient as far as money is also concerned. So, that is going to help them to make their choices in their life. So, this was one very big move towards women empowerment, because this brought together women from the very lower strata, very poor women such as Anganwadi workers and other who are very illiterate and they do not have access to credit financing. So, this came as an answer to these problems. You can get another question, alternate way of asking. Analyze the role of self-help groups and Stree Shakti Yojana in the empowerment of women in Karnataka. So, when a question is like this and is of 10 marks, then you have to take it part by part. Analyze the role of self-help groups. So, first you define what are self-help groups and just discuss their role briefly, that they come for each other's help at the time of need. And then you go on to Stree Shakti Yojana and how did it come handy in the process of empowerment of women in Karnataka. So, give some objectives of Stree Shakti Yojana and how did they move from very basic level to a good level of economic empowerment. So, let us go to the next question, which is discuss the role of non-government organizations, NGOs, in the empowerment of women. So, in your book, there are basically 3 NGOs that have been described. They are Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Development Project, Lijjat Papad, and Self-Employed Women Association, that is Seva. So, Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Development Project, it was basically a charitable trust which was promoted by Dr. D. Virendra Hegade. So, what did they do? They organized self-help groups that provided infrastructure and finance through microcredit. So, basically all these organizations work towards economic development and help money wise, because that was a major area for women, why they were lagging behind, that they were economically dependent and they could not look after their everyday needs money wise. So, these organizations looked into this particular problem or concern. So, they are generally providing with the help the microcredit, micro meaning small credit. So, this was one charitable organization. Then comes Lijjat Papad. Lijjat Papad is an exemplary organization. It was a urban women association who came together, and they, if you remember, we talked about, they started with a seed capital of 80 rupees. And where did they move? They moved to creating billions for themselves and for the society, and they created such a big example for people to see that when they came together, what all can they do. And what did they do? They started doing what they knew already. They knew about making maybe papads. So, they started with that, making papads. Now they have moved on to more consumer products related to food, but it started like that. Then the third one was Self-Employed Women Association, Seva. This also is an exemplary organization under the leadership of one very impressive personality, Ella Bhatt. So, Ella Bhatt, basically she was a Gandhian, and you can go to the Google and have a little biography of hers. It is going to be very impressive, and it is going to teach us so many lessons about from the kind of background that she came. She was a lawyer basically, and how she worked, organized the women to come together, and she brought them all together, and they again created some cottage industry kind of a thing, and they went on to create a rural bank, a bank which will Sahakari Bank, Shri Mahila Seva Sahakari Bank Limited, which was registered in 1974. So, in the beginning, this Seva Bank started functioning in urban areas. So, this was the bank which was providing these women with little credit or looking after their needs depending on the kind of their investments or the money that they have deposited. So, this was a very big initiative from the part of an NGO. So, let us move on to the next question. List out the strategies of women empowerment. So, under that strategies of women empowerment, we talked about there were 3 kind of strategies. What were those? They were social strategies, legal strategies, and economic strategies. So, you again discuss about these. Now, we come to 1 mark questions and answers. So, who introduced the concept affirmative action, or who coined the word affirmative action? So, only 1 word you have to answer. If it comes as a 2 sentences or 2 marker, then you have to in 1 line describe what is an affirmative action. And then who was the person behind it? John F. Kennedy, the American president. Which article of the Indian Constitution abolishes untouchability? Article 17. In which year was the Untouchability Offences Act enacted? 1955. Which article of the Indian Constitution abolishes forced labor. So, it is Article 23. Forced labor meaning it was depending on the caste system. So, they were told to follow a particular occupation or caste only. Which article of the Indian Constitution provides for the right to vote? So, Article 326. What is the provision of Article 335 of the Constitution? It covers the claims of SCs and STs to the services and posts in connection with the affairs of a union or a state. So, here basically you can think about the reservations which are made for them for these kind of posts in union or a state service. In which year the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act was enacted? 1989. Expand SCP, Special Component Plan. So, this was what kind of plan was that? Please go through that again. It was basically to look after the economic needs of the entire family of SCs. Now, expand SCA, this was Special Central Assistance, where the central government will be assisting the state governments or other agencies to expand their scope for financial upgradation or betterment. Then expand SCDC, Scheduled Caste Development Corporation. What did Gandhiji call untouchables as? Harijan. Who started Harijan Sevak Sangha? It was started by a council set by the Indian National Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. Who founded the Bahishkrita Hitakarini Sabha? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. 14th, who started Muk Nayak newspaper? It was again Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Where was the All India Depressed Class Conference held? It was held in Nagpur in 1942. Who founded the Sulabh International? Dr. Bindeshwar Pathak. Where is the premises of Sulabh International? It is in New Delhi. Expand LAMPS, Large Area Multi-Purpose Societies. Remember, it was related to the tribal welfare, where these particular organizations provided them with credit and sold their products, found a market for their products. Expand TRIFED, this was again Tribal Cooperative Marketing Development Federation of India. Expand NCERT, National Council of Educational Research and Training. Expand CIIL, Central Institute of Indian Languages. Which non-governmental organization is working for the upliftment of Soligas? So, they are Vivekananda Ginjana Kendra and Karuna Trust. Who founded the Vivekananda Ginjana Kendra? Dr. H. Sudarshan. In which year was the Towards the Equality report submitted? It was submitted in 1974. Who introduced the concept of microfinance in Bangladesh? Muhammad Yunus in 1970. And you remember he was given a Nobel Prize also for his endeavors. He introduced the concept of Grameen banks in Bangladesh, and our own banking system NABARD took a lot from that concept. Next question is about them only. Expand NABARD. So, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. In which year was the program Stree Shakthi launched? 2000 and 2001. Expand SKDRDP, Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Development Project. Who promoted Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Development Project? Shri Virendra Hegade. Where is the headquarters of Lijjat located? In Mumbai. Expand Seva, Self-Employed Women's Association. Who started Self-Employed Women's Association? Seva, Ella Bhatt. Where is Seva headquartered? It's in Ahmedabad. Who started Harijana and Young India newspapers? Mahatma Gandhi. What is gender discrimination? It is the discrimination against people based on their gender. Which year did the Government of India declare as the year of women empowerment? 2001. In which year was the Protection of Civil Rights Act passed? 1976. Expand NCW, National Commission for Women. Expand SHG, Self-Help Group. In which year was the National Commission for Women established? 1992. Now we come to 2-mark questions. So again, the same question has come as 2-marker. What is an affirmative action, or give the meaning of affirmative action? So you have to describe it. It is an action that refers to the policies that are taken to compensate for all the disabilities that particular sections of the people have faced over a period of time. So, and in India, this term is used in the context of reservations. Again, you have to give a little background. It was first signed by President John F. Kennedy on March 6, 1961 to combat racial discrimination. I hope you remember what was racial discrimination. It was based on the discrimination based on the color, discrimination on for the black people by the whites. What does the Article 341 of Indian Constitution talk about? It empowers the President of India to specify the castes, race or tribes deemed as scheduled caste in a particular state or a union territory. So, the President of India has the power to specify these castes. Where does he gain this power from? He gains this power from this Article 341 of Indian Constitution. Then what does the Article 342 of Indian Constitution talk about? It empowers the President of India to specify the tribes deemed to be scheduled tribes in a particular state or union territory. So, again the President only can decide whom he selects to be called as a scheduled tribes or include their names in the list of scheduled tribes, and this power he derives from this article of the Constitution, Article 342. Name 2 newspapers started by Mahatma Gandhi. They were Harijana and Young India newspapers. Mention any 2 functions of Sulabh International. So, here we have given you 3, you can use 2. Promote rehabilitation of manual scavengers. They talk about human rights, basically human rights of these manual scavengers, and environmental sanitation, that how their new system of taking care of this scavenging leads to environmental sanitation also, and how they have created so many public toilets which are available on a little payment. Then maintenance and construction of pay and use public toilets, that is what we just mentioned, and setting up of public schools in Delhi. And do not forget to mention that these schools are meant for the children of manual scavengers also, along with the other classes. Name any 2 non-governmental organizations that are working for the upliftment of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So, we have these Vivekananda Girijana Kalyan Kendra and Karuna Trust. So, these are the ones which are working basically for scheduled tribes. For scheduled caste, you have a long list of those names, you can select any 2. Mention any 2 functions of LAMPS. It provides credit facility for productive purpose, and it provides the tribes improved variety of seeds, agricultural implements, etc. So, because you remember the tribal way of practice of agriculture was very primitive. So, this particular organization, it helps them to improve their practice of agriculture by providing improved variety of seeds and agricultural implements, etc. Explain the concept of women empowerment, or what is empowerment of women. It can come like that. So, women empowerment is the act of giving power or authority to women. Empowerment involves organizing themselves to increase their self-reliance, that is reliance on their own self, not depending on others, and thereby asserting their independent rights to make choice and to control resources. which will assist in challenging and eliminating their own subordination. So, over a period of time, women have been subordinated and they have been at the receiving end, but by empowering them through these activities, they can actually assert their rights and they can eliminate their own subordination. What is gender? So, gender is the identity based on sex. So, one is a male, another is a female, but it is with reference to the cultural and social differences rather than biological differences. Remember how we mentioned a few examples, how women should behave, how men should behave. This is all socially described or culturally described. So, this is gender. So, unlike sex, which is based on biological differences and men and women have, gender is based on social discrimination, that women are not supposed to do certain activities, they are not good enough as are the men, all those things will come in this. Then gender has become a means of exploitation for women because they have been denied many opportunities that were easily given to the men. But just because they were women, they were considered unequal and somewhere subordinate to men, they were not given those opportunities, be it the economic area, the work, occupation, and the housework was considered lower as compared to the earning money from outside. So, all those things you will mention a bit. Name any two legislations implemented for the protection of women in India. So, there are many, you can mention these two, we have mentioned this for you. Domestic Violence Act 2005 and Dowry Prohibition Amendment Act 1984. Mention any two functions of National Commission for Women. It checks incidents of violence and discrimination against women. This was the work of National Commission. And then promote social, legal and economic equality of women with men. Then mention any two programs launched by Indian government for the economic development of women. So, there are various economic developmental programs that have been launched for women. Here there is a mention of a few: Social Assistance Scheme, Vocational Training, Rashtriya Mahila Kosh for Financial Assistance. Again, this question comes as a 2-marker. What is a self-help group? So, self-help group comprises of a group of micro entrepreneurs who are having homogeneous social and economic backgrounds. They come together voluntarily to save regularly. Save what? Save the money, and mutually agreeing to contribute to a common fund and to meet their emergency needs. So, for these two purposes, people come together from a similar economic background. Between 1984 and 85, Mairada, a non-governmental organization, promoted several cooperatives which were the genesis of these of the first SSGs. What is microfinance? Microfinance is defined as financial services such as savings accounts, insurance funds and credit provided to poor people and low income clients, so as to help them to raise their income and thereby improve their standard of living. Microfinance is the source of financial services for entrepreneurs and small businesses lacking access to banking and related services. So, because of this particular problem that they lacked access to banking and related services, this microfinance system emerged in the scene. So, where they provide little credit up to 50,000 rupees to these self-help groups. Name any two features of microfinance. They provide loan without any security and they provide loan to people who live below poverty line. So, you can understand how important these institutes are, microfinancing, because otherwise what the commercial banks can't do for these people, these microfinances can do. Now, we come to the last question, which says, what is the difference between sex and gender? So, as you must have understood by now, sex is all related to biological differences between a man and a woman, and it is natural because people are born either as men or women or somewhere in between. But what is the gender? Gender is man-made, in the sense we create it in our heads, in our society. That is, in our attitude we create the differences on the basis of the biological differences. So they are, women are physically weaker, women are psychologically weaker, women cannot take up this job, that job, all those things, and men are superior. These kind of differences are not natural differences. They are created by the society, and they are learned through a process of socialization. So it depends on which society or which kind of family you are living in. Those values you will learn through your family, that you are a girl, you have to behave in a particular manner, you are a boy, you have to behave in a particular manner. So these are the gender differences that you learn through the process of socialization, and it is socially and psychologically determined. So as we have discussed, socially the society puts pressure that women should behave in a particular manner, men should behave in a particular manner, and then slowly it becomes psychological also, that women also expect the same kind of values and attitude within themselves, and men too. So these are the differences created by the gender. So which is all about the perspective that people have towards differences based on sex. There are 2 mark questions and answers, some more are there. So what is Stree Shakthi? Stree Shakthi is a program launched in Karnataka during 2001 to empower rural women and make them self-reliant. Stree Shakthi groups are formed at the village level to inculcate the saving habits and empowering the women economically. So here you can mention about 50 to 20 women members also from below poverty line families, landless agricultural laborers, they can join together. So these people are the people who have no hope otherwise anywhere in the society. So this is one particular organization that worked, that stood up for these groups which were below poverty line. Then Stree Shakthi groups are formed through Anganwadi workers and Taluk federations. Suggest any 2 measures for women empowerment. There were 3. The 2 you can take: legal measures, social measures. Mention any 2 functions of Seva. It is like creating income generating opportunities for women, providing credit facilities through Shri Mahila Seva Sehakari Bank Limited. This is a very big contribution of this organization. So the next question is, mention the advantages of internal lending in self-help groups. So what is internal lending? Where members are lending. Members are the lenders, members are the borrowers. So what is the advantage of that? So they can manage their own common fund through this system, and self-help group members take care of the financing needs of each other and develop their skills of financial management. So unlike any commercial bank, they can stand for each other at the time of need. Commercial bank may not provide them any fund because they might not fulfill the criteria of gaining the monetary benefit from the bank. It enhances the knowledge of self-help group members, and in setting the interest rate and periodic loan installments, recovering the loan, etc. So through this, with the help of some linkage with the bank which NABARD created, these self-help groups members can also learn how to set up the interest rate and how to set up the loan investments, etc., and how to recover the loans. We come to now fill in the blanks. So the term Harijan was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi. Bahishkrita Hitakarini Sabha started by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. In Karnataka, Karuna Trust is working for the welfare of the Soligas, which is a tribe. Indian government declared dash year as the Women's Empowerment Year 2001. Lijjat Papad, that is Lijjat's headquarter is in dash Mumbai. Now we are going to match. So let's see whether you can match it. It is Harijan Sevak Sangh. What was it? It was started by whom? So answer is Gandhiji. Then Sulabh International, Bindeshwar Pathak. Microfinance, it is started by Muhammad Yunus, the Nobel Prize winner. And Shri Kshetra Dharmasthala Rural Developmental Project, D. Virendra Hegade. Then Self-Employed Women's Association, Ella Bhatt. So with this, we finally come to an end. With the end of this chapter, we should be carrying some thoughts from the chapter. And what is it that we carry? In this chapter, we talked about social inequalities, how they are created from the last chapter. And in this chapter, we talked about particular strategies that were utilized or used or made to bring those aloof sessions or the sessions which were left out by the society, to take them back into the mainstream. So, at the end of the chapter, I would like to share a few lines from an Urdu poetry by a poet, Sahir Ludhianvi, who says that मालिक ने हर इंसान को इंसान बनाया, हमने उसे हिंदू या मुसलमान बनाया, कुदरत ने तो बख्शी थी हमें एक ही धरती, हमने कहीं भारत कहीं ईरान बनाया. So these lines are very beautiful, that sum up for how we create inequality amongst ourselves to something which is given to us completely free by the God, and we create the inequality, we create the boundaries amongst ourselves. So how many boundaries do you create within yourselves about your society? Just be careful about that, think about that, and we leave you with this thought and we end this chapter here. We'll see you again with a new chapter in the next class. So till then, take care of yourself. Sai Ram.